system that will move infinitely within the eternal moment. John and I were talking about this. I'm sorry, what?
I want to introduce my friend Kat.
Hi.
Hi.
I wish I knew. Do you have any idea how long you will be gathered? Because my husband would love to be here, but I don't know.
We're usually here at 8 or 8:30. Between 8 and 8.
Yeah, between 8:30, yeah, usually. Yep.
Well, we'll see him next week.
Okay, well, that'd be great. That'd be fantastic, yeah. Before we get into this, I was just going off here, and I do this every once in a while. I just kind of get lost into a tangent, and then I'll come back again. But just for the moment, before you all got here, John and I were having a conversation, and we were talking about the now moment. And that now moment transcending time and space. I'm paraphrasing, we didn't put it exactly like this, but the point is this. And Jesus said this when he said, "No man goes up to heaven, but he who's come down from heaven, including the Son of Man who is in heaven." The multidimensional aspect of creation, beyond our perception of linear time. Does that make sense? We see things this way incrementally. We're going from step to step to step to step. The Big Bang Theory began here, and it's growing and evolving and moving and going and da-da-da-da, and it's going infinitely this way. And at the same time, there is another way of experiencing. From a human perspective, that's the only way to experience evolution. Evolution is the reality that is true for our limited perception. If we look at it that way. From a human perception, all we can accept, from the human, all we can accept is evolution. And my mind, as a human, can only this way because it had a beginning, it has a middle, and it starts to get old. A few people show signs of getting older. And after a while, the brain starts to catch up and doesn't function so well. And the body starts falling apart and starting to feel some aches and things that I didn't. But it starts to fall apart. Linear. Spirit, however, spirit is not limited and not confined to linear time. Spirit, as God, is now. Past, present, and future, all interconnected. Beyond what we can see from a spiritual, beyond what we can see from a limited human view, the Spirit is aware of all of it. And that kind of leads us right into where we left off on page 72. We left off on page 72, around the middle of the page. The unspiritual man refers to those who have an attachment to the human experience, which sees things only in terms of relevance to this world. So in other words, we look at it, if I'm not spiritually awakened, and I'm going to view it from the human perspective, I'm going to look at things relevant to this human experience. Well, what time is it? We set our clocks, we have agreed principles of what is here. And what's real. Oh, this is solid, this is matter. I can hear it, bang my head, it hurts. So we accept that that's solid. From another level, I understand it's not solid. Okay, so obviously one of these is wrong and flawed. In the Bible, 1 Corinthians 3:18 through 19, let no one deceive himself. If any among you thinks that he is wise in his age, let him become a fool, that he may become wise. So obviously, this is talking about people who think they know something. And indeed, they may know something relevant to their human experience. They may be very, very scholarly, but that doesn't really make them wise in terms of spirit. So this is saying, you better become a fool to the world if you want to become wise to spirit. They have a whole different perception. Everything's different. For the wisdom of the world of this world is folly with God. For it is written, He catches the wise in their craftiness. So we think we can outsmart God on occasion. We think we can outsmart spirit. And we are so smart that we're going to do da-da-da-da, whatever it is. Then we find out spirit. I remember my mother used to have, my mother used to use this a lot when I was a kid growing up. Man proposes and God disposes. That was one of her favorite expressions. You know, we have this picture of how we want it to be, and all of a sudden, we always wanted this beautiful home, and then the hurricane comes and wipes it out. You know?
It's like man plans and God laughs.
Yeah, kind of, yeah, basically, you know, we think we know something, and spirit has a whole different picture. What's beautiful is when our spirit and the greatest spirit are working in unison, wow, that's a powerful force. Huge, huge, huge force. Anyway, here we see the distinction between the states of consciousness accessible through choice. At times it may appear that you do not have a choice as to the level of awareness you experience because the veil that clouds your vision. This veil represents the distorted beliefs held as reality. Have you ever heard this is the real world? Don't talk to me about anything outside of this moment, because this is the real world. This is what's important. I got my bill to pay this month. I got this problem. That's not real. This is real. Within a judgment, I better read that sentence. I stopped mid-sentence. This veil represents the distorted beliefs held as reality within a judgmental human mind. It is important to remember that the veil exists relative to your beliefs. You are the one who maintains the veil. You will either see true reality or maintain your own perceptual dream where light cannot penetrate. And, you know, we can prove these things out. And I know we've all had these experiences, and I've had this one, and I shared it many times over, but it's very, very important reminder for me, is I had an uncle that owed me some money, and I was mad at this guy, and every time I saw him, my blood would boil, and I'd get angry all over again, because, you know, I did a lot of work, and this guy beat me for my money. Well, I hung on to that for a few years. Then it occurred to me, it would probably be easier for me just to let it go. So I let it go. When I let it go, the next time I saw him, my blood stayed where it belonged. You know, my blood pressure didn't rise. I could shake his hand. We could now be at peace. And then what I realized was, he was not in charge of my peace. I was. And no one is in charge of another. We're all in charge of ourselves. And we do this to ourselves. We maintain the veil. The veil was a false belief. And as long as you maintain that, you can't experience anything other than that. And that's true of all of us. And that's true of every situation. Doesn't matter what the situation is. We create the veils. We. Now, granted, we may have a lot of people in the world that would agree with us. I remember when that happened to me, and I told my story to somebody. Oh, you know, he's an asshole. You know, he should have paid you. You know, and I got all kinds of confirmation that I was right. I think it was the Course in Miracles that proposes the question: would you like to be right or happy? Which one would you rather be? You know, many times we have an argument with our significant other, and probably we all can remember at least one occasion when this has happened, and we're mad at each other, and then we become stubborn to the point where, well, I'm right, and I'm not going to give in because I know I'm right, and you know, I'm just going to carry this until you are big enough to admit you're wrong. You know, and so it goes on and on and on. Sometimes it's easier just to, okay, just let it go, just end it. It's you know, because we suffer We suffer when we hang on to these things. So you can be right or you can be happy. Which reminds me of what the Course in Miracles talks about, forgiveness. Forgiveness, forgiveness. Forgiveness is the key. Always forgiveness. And I remember hearing a definition of forgiveness, which was the most appropriate definition I had ever heard. And true forgiveness means forgetting. That's real forgiveness. Forgiveness is forgetting. Not, I can be the better person. You're still an asshole. You're still wrong, but I'm going to overlook this. And I'm going to, just for the sake of peace, I'm going to just forget about it. Ultimately, I hadn't forgotten anything. I put it in the back over here, and the very next time something else comes up, this comes back again, and remember, and we bring it all up all over again. That was not forgiveness. Forgiveness is forgetting. Now, if forgiveness is forgetting, then it's gone. It's erased. Which is, I want to talk about, I didn't know I was going to go here, but we're going to talk about grace for a moment.
Unearned favor.
I'm sorry?
Grace is unearned favor.
Okay, unearned favor. Well, grace to me is just washed away. Doesn't exist. Same thing. It's gone. Now, God's grace would be a washing away. I'm sorry?
An aha moment.
An aha moment would be when we experience something and we have practiced true forgiveness and we forgot. It's erased, it's gone, it's never to be brought up again. That's true forgiveness. And that's what grace really is about. Now, in terms of going beyond time and space, because that's where we happen to be here. So that's why this is all interconnected. Jesus said, what you hold in this world will be held in heaven. What you let loose in this world will be let loose in heaven. Okay. Let's say, hypothetically, we all decide anything that we have against anyone that we've ever encountered, we're just going to wipe the slate clean and not carry any of that with us. Right in this moment. And then we pass. We pass on. What are we taking with us?
Nothing.
Nothing. We're not taking anything that's going to stand in our way of experiencing love. Of God. There's nothing to get in your way. Now, if we could do that in that moment, in a moment, and now, always is. Are we all in agreement that now always is? Okay. If now always is, and we basically washed away everything that we were carrying with us, then ultimately all we could experience would be love in that moment, right? And now always is. So, how come we're not experiencing the love fully right now?
Choosing to.
We're not choosing to. Why? Because we'd rather carry our baggage with us. We'd rather carry all of our stuff with us. Because we're not prepared to let go of all of our stuff and all of our judgments and all of our attachments. We're not ready to let those go, so we carry them with us. And that's the very thing that's going to keep us somewhere within the spectrum of creation, operating at some frequency within this range. But we're doing this, each of us, to ourselves. Not even Satan can do this to you. The devil didn't make you do it. The devil can't make you do it. So we all have that power within us. And that's what I was talking about in here when I said, it is important to remember that the veil exists relative to your beliefs. You are the one that maintains the veil. You will either see true reality or maintain your own perceptual dream where light cannot penetrate. You see how that works? We're all in charge. We can only experience what we're hanging on to or letting go of at any given moment. And this is the extent of what would be labeled life or death. Life is living in the conscious state where you have released everything, and death is somewhere other than that, wherever that happens to be, and it's going to be different for everyone on the planet, because everyone's going to have things that they're hanging on to, that they're working towards, that they believe in, and yada, yada, yada. It's going to be unique to that individual. So you're either fully awake, or you're not. You're somewhere in between. To sum up, Moses had the job of teaching the law to guide man while in the world of separation or judgment, i.e. the dream. This law showed man how to become morally righteous or good humans. Jesus, on the other hand, came to teach man how to reconnect with the higher reality and move out of the world of separation. Remember hearing Jesus say, I'm in the world but not of the world? Did you believe he was in the world but not of the world?
Most of the time.
Most of the time, yeah. I would say most of the time. He had his moments. He did. He had his moments where he got snagged. We all have our moments. I had one last week.
Couple hours ago.
But no.
3 Hail Marys.
Yeah, 5 Our Fathers, 3 Hail Marys. And yeah, but the thing is this. Now always is. Now this is the beauty of creation. Because now always is. If I get caught, all I got to remember to do is to forgive myself and move back into the now moment. Right back here. Odds are, I'm going to have trouble forgiving myself, and I'm going to probably get caught up in a cycle and judge myself all over again, and continue to judge myself, judging myself, and so on and so on and so on, until I finally get so disgusted that I give up. And when I give up, then I can let it go and get back into the now moment. And so we torment the hell out of ourselves. We do this because we've conditioned ourselves to do this. We don't have to. We can wake up. Bless you. But when a man turns to the Lord, the veil is removed. Now the Lord is the Spirit. You see, the Lord is the Spirit. Now, we're already spiritual beings. That's what Jesus meant when he said, no one goes up to heaven but he who's come down from heaven, including me, and I'm in heaven. We all are spiritual beings because we all come from that same point of origin, and that same point of origin is God, which is love. That's the core within all of us, even the mass murderer. That's their core. The personality, however, may not recognize that love within them, right? And they're going to play out a role. Remember Shakespeare? The world is a stage, we're all actors upon it, we're all playing roles, and we play roles. And we play roles relative to what we think we're supposed to play. Whatever belief system we hold within ourselves, we play that out. Some people are a little bit twisted, but it is what it is. You know, it's a role they're playing. Now the Lord is Spirit, and where the Spirit of the Lord is, there is freedom. Again, remember Jesus saying, you shall know the truth, and the truth shall set you free. Do you see now how that was a true statement? You see, if I let go of everything and I experience love, am I not free? I'm free of all of the baggage and all of the bondage and all of the turmoil and all of that frustration. I'm free. What freed me? Me. Choice. I let it go. Poof. Wow. It's gone. I'm free. I shall know the truth set you free. Wow, it's pretty simple stuff. You know, Jesus was pretty enlightened to come here and teaching this stuff. He really was. And we all, with unveiled face, beholding the glory of the Lord, are being changed into his likeness from one degree of glory to another. For this comes from the Lord who is the Spirit. So, Course in Miracles, we were talking about the Course. Everybody have some exposure to the Course in Miracles? Have you never heard of? Okay, Course in Miracles was a channeled piece. Pretty intense, pretty long process. And it was the consciousness of Jesus Christ that a woman channeled. And she was I believe she was Jewish and a psychologist. When she first started receiving this channeling, she thought she was going crazy. She talked to one of her colleagues and he said, write it down. And so she started taking notes and he started taking notes. And a number of years went by and a book was birthed called The Course in Miracles. The Course in Miracles basically talks about love and fear. And it says these are the only experiences that you can have. A or B. And it goes into to help people recondition their mind to look at something and see the higher reality in it so that you are not so prone to just reacting to everything. Because as this was just talking about here, we are being changed into his likeness from one degree of glory to another. Now the Course in Miracles, the miracle, according to the Course, is when you have the aha moment that Peggy talked about. You have an aha moment, you recognize the higher reality, even if it's for a moment, and you let go of whatever it was that you were hanging on to that was creating this discomfort within you. And you replace your fear with love. Love is the truth, the true reality of what is. God is. God is love. God is that which never changes. Spirit is pure, was pure, will always remain pure. Every single person on the face of the planet, they come from and are still pure within their core. Yeah, everyone. Sometimes hard to see. But if you get beyond the personality, if you get beyond the role they're playing, because now look at everyone as being actors. They're playing out a role. What role are they playing? Well, they're playing relative to what they know and what they believe. And some doing a good job. You know, whatever it is, they're doing a good job at it. It may not be a role I would want to play. I don't want to play the mass murderer, you know. But in that moment, that's their role. Because that's what they know. Now, Jesus would say, forgive them. They don't know what they're doing. It's true. I'm not going to judge them because that's who they are. Because if I judge them, I am lost in my judgment, and now I've lost the ability to feel and experience God, which is true love, because my fear overshadowed the love. And my judgmental mind looks at who they are, and I see them as a threat somehow. They're a threat to me. In ultimate reality, they're not a threat to me. Nothing is a threat to me. If I accept God and Spirit and recognize that I am a spiritual being, who and what in this world can ever touch me? Nobody and nothing. This is what the crucifixion really was about. What was the crucifixion about? Why was Jesus nailed to a cross, and what was that really about?
Forgiveness.
forgiveness and to teach. Jesus came here to be a way shower and to teach and to say, look, you can take the body, you can do whatever you want to the body, but you can't touch me. And this is why he comes back and I'm still alive. See, you didn't get me. You thought you got me. You didn't get me. I'm a spiritual being. And you can't kill spirit. You can kill the body. You can't kill spirit. And that's what he was basically here to teach us. We're all spiritual beings. Wake up the spirit and you realize no one can touch you. No one can hurt you. They can hurt the body, yeah. He proved that out. And I don't like pain either, you know. If somebody's going to take me out, whatever, just make it quick, you know. Don't have me linger. I don't like that. But I don't mind going fast. Just do it fast. As you turn away from your attachments to this world, you begin to see true reality. As the veil is removed from your eyes, the change that takes place happens not as one complete moment, but in degrees. This is true of most people. Did you ever have that aha moment? Everybody in here have their aha moment at some time or another? There was this woman from Maine, and she's back again, and she's struggling. I feel so much for her. She is struggling so much because she had her aha moment, and it lasted for a while, and she hung on to it for a while, and then it slipped away. And then she went back into her ego-based mind with fear-based thoughts, and now she's trying to get back to just experiencing love. And I feel for her because I know how difficult it is to maintain within this world. It's not an easy thing. Sometimes we build incrementally. You know, we have one moment, and then that moment brings us to another moment, and then we get some validation. We have an experience, and then we get that it's validated just a little bit, and then I say, wow, you mean this is real? I can live this. And then we slip back, and we get caught all over again. That's why Paul said, I die on a daily basis. That's what he was referring to. He would have his aha moment. He's one with God experientially. I'm in the world, I'm not of the world, and all of a sudden the rent is due. Oh shit, where's the money going to come from? And I'm caught again, you know. And I get caught up in the cycle. And then I'm right back again, and spirit is overshadowed by my fears. My fears come into play, and now I have to take care of this body. I have to take care of all of my stuff, because it's mine. So we lose this, then we have an aha moment again. Oh, I can let that go because I'm spirit. Then all of a sudden the phone rings and kid's in jail. Oops, caught again. That son of a bitch out. just when I had everything right where I wanted it, he got me. But anyway, we go through this back and forth for a while. It's part of what is. The rebirthing process comes from a choice that must be repeatedly renewed. Now, why? If now always is, and I made the choice, why do I have to renew that choice? What do you think, John? Why?
Slippage.
What's going on? Why, if I say, okay, I accept love. I'm going to love everyone and everything, and I'm not going to be afraid of anything. And I have that aha moment, and I feel it, and I know it's true. How come I got to renew that?
Well, if you had it, I think you want to stay in it.
I want to stay in it, but how come I don't stay in it?
Because of our ego.
Because we're in a dimension of time and space that is not conducive to maintaining unconditional love. We're in a dimension of time and space where the ego in the fear-based thought system is actually the king. This world is not full of enlightened beings. I hate to disappoint everybody. but we're not in a world of enlightened beings. We're in a dimension of time and space that some people are moving towards being enlightened beings, but the great majority, they're clueless. They're clueless as to what it means to live in unconditional love. And the law of attraction says you're going to attract to you whatever you're calling for. How many feel that they're awake enough to recognize exactly what you're calling for? Anybody?
Now, even when you think you are, you end up, now, I want to be thin. Well, what are you saying? Fat.
You're saying you're fat. The point is this: we're not really fully equipped to stay centered because we are still looking at things through a judgmental filter, and it takes a tremendous amount of reconditioning the process. That's why the Course in Miracles, it's actually designed to last years, years, to rethink everything that you're doing in this world. You look at something, oh, it's not what I thought it was. Okay, I can let that go. Next thing, oh, that's not what I thought it was. I can let that go, and so on and so on and so on and so on. Until finally, you don't have an attachment to seeing things the old way. Because remember, in that now moment, you're going to attract the law of attraction. It's a law. You're going to attract exactly whatever you're calling for. Whatever it is. Now, if that's coming from spirit, that's good. That's great. That would be very, very, very helpful, utilizing the law of attraction in the now moment, if what you're calling for is coming from spirit. If it's coming from the ego mind, it's going to definitely work, whatever you want. Law of attraction doesn't say, like gravity, it's not, this will fall, but this book won't. Everything's going to fall, everything. There are no exceptions. The law of attraction doesn't say, well, I don't like what you're calling for, you can't have it. No, you're going to get it. That's the problem. The problem is this: we are not awake enough to recognize what we're calling for. And the big secret is out. You can have what you want. Wow, I can have what I want. Well, you give the ego what it wants, and it's going to use that. You give them a tool. I can have what I want. Now, is that going to help us become spiritually awakened? Not necessarily. It will, if you are calling from spirit, if you're centered, if I sit in silence for a moment, quiet my mind, and let spirit guide, and I offer myself, and I offer my energies to be used for spirit, yes, now I'm utilizing the law of attraction. What am I doing? I'm doing God's will, not my will.
So how do you know, I mean, it's obviously coming from an ego-based desire to want to be spiritual. So how do you know that it's not an ego-based desire, that it is God's will?
Well, I would.
Or are you falling into a moral dilemma there of some sort?
I would say.
In other words, I'm sitting here, I'm asleep, ego-based world, and I say, gee, I want to be enlightened. Now that's a desire expressed. How do I know that that's not a moral judgment-based, or a judgment ego-based desire?
Good question. And you know what? You'll know. You may not know in this moment, but you will know in the moments that are coming, because you will find out through experience. Like I say, the law of attraction is exacting. It's not going to look at, oh, he didn't mean it this way. He really meant it that way. You know what I'm saying? There was that
My
movie.
attraction lawyers on that.
There was that movie. I can't remember whether it was Beguiled or Bedazzled. It was either or. Beguiled or Bedazzled. You ever see that movie? It's a great movie. Can't remember the people that were in it. I'm terrible with names. But anyway, the movie talks about this guy. This guy has, I guess it's 5 wishes that he can be granted. And Hurley is the woman, the English actress, Elizabeth Hurley. She plays the devil, and she gives this guy 5 wishes, and all of a sudden he realizes as these things are coming to him that, well, I didn't mean it that way. I meant it this way. Oh, well, you didn't ask for it that way, so you got exactly what you asked for, right? Like at one point he says, well, I want to be rich and powerful. And so he was rich and powerful. He was a drug lord, you know. And all of a sudden, remember see that? Yeah, it's a great movie, you know. And so, oh, I didn't want that, you know. And so, you know, that old thing, be careful what you ask for, because you may get it. We do. We get exactly what we're asking for. In reality, we're all getting what we're asking for. Doesn't matter what's coming our way.
The law of attraction says that when you're in alignment with your inner being,
Okay?
then you feel total joy, then you know that you're on the right path.
Okay. And you will know exactly when you are there, when you are in that joy, when you are in the vibration of love, you know it. You know when you're there, and you know when you're not. And if you don't know, you will learn. You know, we talked before about the difference between judgment and discernment. Okay? To me, discernment is just that. Discernment is recognizing when you're in the flow, so to speak, when you are connected, when you're there, when you're feeling bliss. I like bliss better than joy. When you're feeling blissful, and you just know you're one with spirit in that moment. When you're not, you'll know. And we're all here in this dimension of time and space to wake up to that blissful experience, to wake up to unconditional love. Experientially, each of us is here for that. That's the highest objective of being here, is being in that vibration and sharing it. That's it. I mean, you know.
So it's there whether I express a desire for it or not.
Well,
I
no,
guess.
it's there. Now, John and I were talking just before we started. We were talking about the fact that as we are in our dream state, so to speak, as you're in one dimension within time and space, in terms of ultimate reality, you're already awakened somewhere within creation. Okay? You can accept that. You're already awakened. Well, why aren't you feeling that bliss in this moment, in this particular dimension of time and space?
Right.
Because you're embracing some concept and some belief that's not in line with that. Right? Not in tune with that.
And that's because you're here to learn a lesson, or learn spiritual lessons?
Well, you're here to wake up to that, and whatever it is that you're holding on to, I can't tell you what you're holding on to, or anyone else, but within ourselves, if we're honest enough within ourselves, and we do our own inner searchings, we will find whatever it is. Because, rest assured, the universe will help you. For Christians, the Holy Spirit will help you. For Hindus, the Krishna will help you. For a Buddhist will help you. I mean, whatever label, it doesn't matter. The idea is, you cannot, and it says this emphatically, you cannot ask without receiving. No one can.
But you have to take the time to meditate to know what you want to ask for.
Meditation is the key element, because what are we doing? We're quieting the mind in meditation.
Quiet the
We're
mind.
getting beyond the ego's agenda. Each of us has an ego, and each of us has an ego agenda. That ego agenda is going to be the obstacle that's going to stand in the way of spirit being your end all, being all that you are. You're either experiencing your ego and your thoughts relative to the ego, or you're going to experience spirit. You're going to wake up, or you're going to be in the process of waking up, right? And you'll know when you're awake, and you'll know when you're not.
There's like a poem. It says like, I didn't have time to pray today, and the person goes through their day and everything goes wrong. And they said, no, now I've learned I have to take the time to pray, and then your day's going to go right. So you have to make time to meditate, I believe.
Yeah, you have to, absolutely. Now, first of all, and that's crucial. That's a crucial point. I remember the first time I was told to meditate by God. I heard a voice speaking to me. I had a conversation, and I was told, I want you to start a regimen of meditation. You know, my first thought was, shit, I have no time for this.
I said, God told me this, but I still would do it. He's like, what?
I said, you know what? I have no time. My life's too damn busy. I was a father. I was setting up a business. Meditate? When am I going to find time to meditate? Then I finally, I broke down. And the only reason I broke down was, and I've shared this, when I first went home and I prayed, because I was brought up Catholic. God, you gotta help me. This was very, very strange. And my wife was sleeping, and I'm talking to God. I said, are you sure I'm supposed to do this with my life? And my wife was sound asleep. She said, yes. Oh, wait a minute. No. Did I imagine that? And so I'm trying to, are you awake? Are you awake? Sound asleep. I said, oh, shit, okay. Now I recognized she was asleep, and I had heard the voice, but I'm saying, did I just imagine the voice? So I asked again. I said, are you sure? Now I'm asking in my mind. The lips moved, yes. Okay, now I watched, I had the visual, I had the audio. I said, okay, I guess it's true, I'm supposed to start to meditate. So I took that step. And that was what led me into meditation. I started off only 10 minutes at a time. 10 minutes, 15 minutes, then half an hour, 45 minutes. And I would wait until my son and my wife were sleeping so I would be undisturbed, and went into a whole different room. And so that's how I got into the meditation. And through the quieting of the mind, I recognized that a lot of things go on that I was not aware of when my mind was busy with the day-to-day. Not that I was a bad person. I didn't think, I tried not to hurt anybody along the way. I thought I was pretty good. I thought I was going to be good enough anyway, that I'd measure up. I wasn't looking for anything. It really wasn't. I said, shit, I'm good. I'd never really hurt anybody. I do what I can to help people. But when I was told to meditate, and then I get into meditation, then I came into a whole nother level of understanding. Then I realized, well, it's not about being good or bad. It's about being awake. It's about surrendering my ego-based mind and my ego's agenda and serving God. Then I started to understand what Jesus meant when he said, not everyone who comes to me and says, didn't I teach in your name, heal in your name, cast out devils, do all these wonderful works, and do all this in your name. And Jesus said, I'm going to tell them, get away from me, I never knew you. Because in reality, if they were doing it out of their ego, feeling this is what I should be doing, they weren't necessarily hearing spirit, and they really were not doing God's will. What is God's will? What is God's will for all of us tomorrow? Check. I have no idea. I don't know what I'm supposed to do tomorrow. But if I surrender my will and let God have me, now I am truly doing God's will. Not an easy job. Hardest job we'll ever face is to surrender your life and turn it over. Give it to God. That's why Jesus said, okay, when they asked him, well, that one said, hey, I've been good. I followed the commandments. What's left for me? Sell all that you have, give it to the poor, and then follow me. Whew, can't do that? Okay. All right. They asked him, well, give us another commandment then. Love God with your whole mind, your whole heart, your whole soul, and Him alone you should serve. Have you ever met anyone in your life that loves God with their whole heart, their whole mind, their whole soul, and Him alone they're serving?
That's a tough one.
That's a tough one. Have you ever met one in your entire life?
But I think that should be all of our goal.
Well, wait a minute. If now always is, then why am I not doing that if I can accept that would be my ultimate goal? In other words, why am I not participating in this moment and just doing that? Then I would imagine I would have to go within me and say, what have I got that's holding me from that?
In a sense, when you say that in a certain way, it sounds like you're giving up a lot of things, giving up your whole life, giving up everything, and, be a missionary or do some strange thing. But another way of looking at it is just simply being guided by a spirit every moment.
Oh,
And it might be caring about your normal life or whatever you do, but just being guided by, instead of saying serving God, you can say be guided by spirit, which is God within us, and just that knowing and following that sounds a little easier somehow. And yet I think it's the same thing.
well, I would agree with you, and I would say it probably is pretty close to the same thing. The only thing that I would say is the ego mind. If you recognize that the ego mind is going to want to play with you, every single one of us, we all have an ego mind, and most people, their ego mind is pretty good at manipulating, and finding a way to continue on and maintain control. This is what an ego is going to want to do. It's not a giving up of anything if you realize that you are offering yourself to serve a higher reality. Then it doesn't mean that this no longer, I can't have this in my life. I can't have anything. And this is one of the things that I saw. The love of money, for example, is a major obstacle for people living fully awakened. On the opposite side of that coin, an aversion to having money is just as detrimental to living centered in hearing God. If it's coming from a human judgmental mind, doesn't matter what the thing is. If I say, I gotta have it to serve, or I can't have it to serve, both of those are erroneous perceptions. Nothing is a problem. The problem is when I judge something and I put a value on that thing, that then becomes the problem. Whether the value is positive or negative. It's not about this or that, it's about staying centered. Now, that being said, that's why I say it's very, very difficult for us as human beings to carry this off, because instantly my ego mind wants to conjure up a picture. And then I'm trying to
judge.
I'm sorry?
It likes to judge.
It likes to judge. That's its very nature. I mean, without judgment, the ego doesn't have, you don't have an ego. The ego is rooted in judgment. It thrives in judgment. It's sustained in judgment. Take away the judgment, the ego's not there. The moment you remove all the judgment, and that's exactly why at the very, very beginning of this book, when I talked about the Garden of Eden, and I said, you have only the tree of life, which is non-judgment, and then you have the tree of knowledge of good and evil, which is judgment. We have life, we have death. Life and death, life and death. Now, we can vacillate back and forth, yes. As Paul said, I die on a daily basis. I can let go of my judgments, and I can pick them up again. And this is what Christ meant when he says, I lay down my life freely, no man takes it from me. I can pick it up again at any moment, but I'm laying it down freely. No man takes it, but I lay it down, I can pick it up. This is the will, this is the commandment of the Father. God says you have the right. Each and every one of us has the right to say, I'm busy. I want this. I want that. It's my way. It's this way. And that's not really necessarily serving God's will. It's serving my will, my ego's will, right? Whatever it is. Now, what is God's will for me? I have no idea. I really don't. What's God's will for you? That's between you and God. You know, just recently I talked to the guy that I know up in California, the publicist that was working on the documentary a few years ago, and I showed him this thing that I had worked on a few years ago about surrendering everything and turning it over to God and making a declaration and signing this contract. It would be, I guess it would be considered a contract, where we become stewards for all that we have. It's no longer ours. We're signing over title to God. And I wrote all this out. I got a page of it, and someday I'll share it with you and see what you think of it. And he signed it. And basically what it says is that everything that God has put in his charge, he is now going to be a steward. And, you know, that's what it is. It's stewardship. Once you become a steward, it's God's now. This is not mine anymore, it's God's. Now, of course, if that's God's, there's no problem with it. I have to take care of it. If the battery goes dead, I replace it. Because God wouldn't want something that's not functional, right? So I'm going to take the best care I can of all that's in my charge. And this would include my children, right? It wouldn't, I mean, it's not like when you forsake everything and everyone in this world, I guess there probably should be another word rather than forsake, but that's the way it was written. But the meaning would be to release your attachment to the possessive ownership and turning it over to God and recognizing that you are a steward for that. Now nothing becomes a problem. The money flows, it's God's money. I'm going to do my best with all this money that's coming to me because it's not mine, it's God's. I'm going to work with this money, I'm going to invest it here and use it there and donate it here and do this and that and that and that. That's God's money, not mine. Beautiful home? Oh, it's God's home. I'm going to make sure that the paint is nice and fresh on it and, you know, the roof's not leaking and, you know, whatever it is, it belongs to God. Not a problem. Now, when we recognize this, all things that come to us, they're God's. What's the problem with any of it?
Well, everything you earn is because God gave you the ability to earn it.
Well, no, we also have, but we also have the law of attraction that says even if my ego wants something, the law of attraction says I'm going to get it. I can have it. It's not necessarily for God now, it's for me. And what I'm saying is that the time that I have here in this world, I can serve me or I can serve God.
But if you're with God, when you're meditating, you want to do, and you're with Spirit. Spirit is God. So God you may want to them, but God, I think it's all intertwined. God wants you to have certain things. All right.
Well, I'm not saying God doesn't want someone to have something. No, what I'm saying is this: that the many people go into a meditation, they'll bring their ego in with them. Okay. And just because you go into a meditation, don't think just because you go in and you sit down and you're quiet for an hour, 2 hours, or 10 hours, that you are clear and that Spirit is what's coming through. That's kind of Scott's question. How do you know when it's Spirit really speaking? And many times when we begin our meditations, until you become centered enough, you will have your Spirit and your ego. The ego many times will accompany many people on their beginning their meditations. And many people get lost in that. And they think, I meditated, God told me this. You know, God, and so I'm going to do it. You'll know if it's not coming from unconditional love, it's not Spirit speaking.
You know, it's kind of like that. You had an awesome example once before of your friend.
Oh, yeah, absolutely.
I like that.
He came out of his meditation after 20 minutes. oh, I got my answer. My spirit guides told me I'm going to pick up my car and I'm not going to pay him.
Yeah.
You know, wait a minute. That wasn't God talking to you. I got news for you. But in his mind, he believed, yeah, these are my spirit guides. You know, and so we embrace certain beliefs, and it's not necessarily truth unless it's coming from unconditional love. You're not connecting to true spirit. And ego exists even outside of this dimension of time and space. When somebody channels and they receive something, just because you channeled and you received something, don't look at that as gospel. Don't believe just because someone on Ruth came through and gave you this message, it's got to be right, because she's outside of this dimension, and so I'm going to believe everything she told me. No. If it's based on unconditional love, go with that. If it's not, you'll find out.
Well,
Rest
how do you
assured.
know?
I'm sorry?
How do you know?
Like I say, you'll learn through experience. And this is the main reason we are here. We're here to experience. And incrementally you'll have a moment. You'll know when you are connected to true spirit. You feel. You know when you're connected to unconditional love in that moment. You don't have to question.
But your friend thought that
Yeah.
he shouldn't pay for his car, so
Right.
he truly believed that?
He did in that moment. Or at least he was telling himself he believed that.
Hey, Kat, I'm not paying for that jewelry next time.
I like his spirit guides.
I mean, we can con ourselves into believing anything.
But you know the difference is when you're in alignment with your spirit God, you feel pure joy. I don't believe your friend felt pure joy. I mean, when you're stealing, you have to just feel weird or something, I'm sure.
Well, this is why it's a personal thing for every individual.
Right.
Everyone's in charge of just themselves. I know I'm only in charge of me, and each of you are in charge of yourselves. And, you know, I had this conversation just the other day with somebody talking about when we leave this particular body, the body I'm in, and you're stripped naked, and you're giving account of your true self, there is no room, there's no wiggle room. There is no, well, I didn't mean this, I meant that. I didn't say it this way, I said it that way. You know, if you're really, truly true to yourself, you know, we all know.
No do-overs?
In that moment, when when the Bible talks about this, in the end you're going to give account of even your idle thoughts. Okay?
Uh-oh.
In that moment, yeah. In that moment, there is an accounting factor, and because we are all operating at a frequency coming from fear or love, coming from ego or spirit, or a combination of the two, you are operating right now at a frequency. We all have one. And if you were 100% honest, I mean 100% honest, right now, you would know whether you're coming from pure unconditional love or not. Right? No one has to tell you you are or you're not. No one has to judge you. You'll know. You know, even that individual who said, my spirit guides told me such and such, if you were released from all this world and all your physical stuff, and you're nothing but pure spirit, and in that moment, you look at that same situation, am I being true or am I lying to myself? You will be true in that moment. There is an accountability because truth will be right in your face. There is no one there to try to con. You're there. Now, I mean, can you imagine it just for a moment, being 100% honest with yourself? Thank God for grace. Thank God for the fact that the truth of the matter is, if you could let go of all of your stuff, it's gone. If you hang on to it, you'll deal with it. And if you leave this world with all kinds of baggage, then that's your stuff. You know?
That's when you can go on to your next life.
And that's where you are. It's a continuum. You know, that's why I like the Hindu terminology: transmigration of soul. Transmigration of soul. Here we are in this moment. Okay, let's say a meteor just hit, and the shock wave is coming, and we got 5 minutes. Okay, so we got 5 minutes. Now, are we going to be able to rectify all the shit that we carried along up to this moment? Probably not. But the point is, if you recognize the real truth, and you could just live fully in this moment and let all of it go, there's nothing that you're taking with you. This is why, remember the story, I remember seeing this on TV, I think, at one of the, where Christ is being, he's dying on the cross, and the murderer is right there with him, and the other one is saying, well, Jesus, you shouldn't be here. I mean, I'm a murderer, but you were innocent. They killing you. And in that moment, Jesus looks at him and says, hey, before the day's out, you're going to be with me in the kingdom. This is the murderer. Wait a minute, how come? Because in that moment, remember, now always is, in that moment, he's releasing all of it. He's opening his heart and his mind to unconditional love. So all the baggage that would go with him doesn't exist. He can be in heaven. That's why also Jesus said this, the righteous, and there's a couple, I met one or two in this world, the righteous will never inherit the kingdom. Why? Because their judgmental mind is not going to allow them to experience unconditional love. Because they have to judge everything and everyone. Even though I'm better than the rest of them. I'm so good. I'm so good that you're going to be at the end of the line. Doesn't make sense to most of the Christians that I've talked to. How come the one who's good, even though they're righteous, they've been real good, they're at the end of the line, and the murderer gets to go in the front? Doesn't make sense. The reason is, we do not live in a system of reward and punishment. It's not reward and punishment, because reward and punishment would be based on a judgmental system. We don't have a judgmental system, but we do have an exacting system. You heard water seeks its own level. Whatever vibration you're operating at is where you are going to find yourself. As Megan said, you're not going to go from here to here just because you leave